What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what is really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is down 5.65%, 1243 the low, 1326 the high, and 4.3 million shares being traded. Today has been quite the wild ride. So we are starting to see a nice recovery, which is very welcomed. A lot of that is coming from algorithmic trading. So when it comes down to data, we have somewhat mixed data today. And so for instance, S&P and ISM both put out manufacturing. S&P does include small, mid, and large cap. That came in at 52.2, forecast at 51.9. ISM, that's more mid and large cap. And that came in kind of flat. So 48.2 versus 48.8. So the biggest difference is small cap. So it goes to show that small caps are actually expanding. So that's definitely very welcomed. Caused the market to have a nice pop up as well. So that was, again, a very positive thing. But one thing that's kind of causing the market some certain level of uncertainty is this. So data that came out for Black Friday shows that there was about 11.8 billion in online sales. That is up 9.1 from the year prior. And so this is record high numbers. This is not the narrative that the market does want. This doesn't necessarily justify a rate cut because that does signal that consumers are kind of out there spending the money. They're not really struggling. So right now there is a 86.4% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So still too early to write off the fact that we aren't going to get a cut yet, but of course this data isn't that great. So we'll have to wait and see how that does play out. Nonetheless though, Lucid actually did put out news this morning. So it goes to show that Lucid CFO is going to be speaking at the UBS Global Industrial and Transportation Conference. So good to see them actually getting themselves out there. This has been one of my biggest issues, is that under Peter, there was a lot of passion. Peter would go to any and all conferences. And under Mark, I think they've done a astonishing maybe one prior one aside from this one. So definitely night and day difference. And so I know a lot of people, including myself, have kind of shat on Peter and kind of some of the things that he's done. But one thing that nobody can ever argue is that he didn't have passion, and he loved to tell the world about his passion. So hopefully this is something that Lucid does continue to do. Although they did miss out on a couple of key ones. So they missed out on, I think it was the Auto Tech conference at Barclays. So they did miss out on some vital ones, but at least they're getting their name out there. So this is going to be on December the 3rd webcast. And so that's kind of a good thing. So I'll live stream that if you guys are interested in doing that. But nonetheless, hopefully you do have Tawfiq say some good things and really pushing Lucid higher. Aside from that, shorts. So right now, shorts are increasing about 63,000 shares. 14.63% of the free float is being shorted. Works to be 44.9 million shares overall are being shorted. So for those of you that missed my weekend video, the reason why we are now at 14.6%, not at the 30 plus range, is because there was this that did come out, a SEC filing, a amended 13D, that did signal a insider kind of reduced their position, but that is all because of technically those the most recent note. And so because of that change, it does kind of change the number of available free float shares. And so it's all just formulas behind the scenes. So now we are at the 14% range. So kind of interesting stuff for that. Aside from that, looking at the options, 1.02 million in calls, 1.8 in puts, and then 50% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. So far today, you kind of have very inconsistent information. So for instance, I always like to look at where the volume does come from. And so for instance, on the secondary market, you see about 5 transactions, all of which are sells. And so there hasn't been any new analyst ratings, no real substantial data points coming out to prompt institutions to kind of sell out. So in most cases, algorithmic trading is kind of the main culprit on what is moving Lucid and the broader market. But more specific in Lucid's case, you're actually seeing some institutions selling. So I'm not sure why. Maybe some institutions are pivoting to risk off, and I think maybe for whatever reason, they feel Lucid is too risky at this stage in the game. So let me know your general thoughts on that. Dark pool transactions. So these are all the transactions on above $100,000. So big one for today is 1.2. The fact that shorts aren't doing anything, as I mentioned, they are increasing about now 55,000 shares. It is fair to assume that most of these transactions are linked to hedge funds. Aside from all of that, quickly going back over to the options, from a bull standpoint, you see consensus for it to be roughly around 13 to 13.50 by the end of Friday. And then bears are anticipating for it to be sub 12. So a little bit more of a back and forth for that. Right now with it at 1284 though, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 1186 is going to be that next strong support, and then 1440 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. So right now I am looking at the 1-day chart, so that's very strong support and resistance points. For those of you that want to dollar cost average, day trade, whatever else, with it at 1285, it is smack dab in the middle between this pivot and this S1. So 1259, 1222, so those will be good support levels if you again want to average down or whatever else. Then flip side, 1318 and 1377 is going to be the next round target / resistance. So today, definitely a very interesting day. Not a good start to December in my opinion, but I do feel that in most of the broader market's case, that it's just being artificially suppressed as per usual. But aside from all of that fun stuff on the actual chart, it is now flirting a little bit with this 10-day moving average. So signaling that momentum is slowly going down, but it is kind of holding on for dear life. So that's kind of a good thing. So assuming today's crappy day is just a one-off, then you could see a nice continued push higher. We have a lot of big data coming out the rest of the week that could really give a justified reason to have a cut, and the market will love that. Really push it to, as I mentioned in Lucid's case, close to that 50-day moving average, but it really does need to hold that 10-day moving average. Aside from that, there really hasn't been that much in articles really coming out or talking about Lucid whatsoever. You had this one on just talking about the CFO being at the UBS Global Industrial and Transportation Conference, but that's pretty much it. Because of the recent price action, you do see 𝗖𝗎𝗡𝗖𝗧 at roughly around 81, so arguably overbought. So this is why as well you're seeing some kind of extreme price action today. So all in all, another interesting day. I think every day for Lucid is just randomness, a lot of manipulation and whatever else, but at least there is some action happening from management. So they're participating in some conferences. That is something that hopefully they do continue, because I think you can't have kind of just grayness at this stage in the game. This Q4 is going to be massive for Lucid, and if they flop and miss on their targets, the market's going to really significantly punish. Like, there won't be any excuse whatsoever. So this is something that they need to really get themselves out there and give it all that they have, both coming from an operational standpoint and also just marketing. I think that their marketing has been lackluster, in my opinion. Unpopular opinion, possibly. But nonetheless, let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you are looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.